Hi, how are you? Oh, hope all is well. Hope your day went well and all that good stuff. It's a little after, well, it's after 10. It's 10:32 here in New York. And I'm just popping on for a quick couple of minutes. I'm not staying on long. Got a lot going on. So I just, I'm going to continue on with Acts 13. And I just want to briefly talk about. But when the Jews saw the multitudes, they were filled with envy and spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming. Yeah, so here, envy is such an interesting emotion. The Jews were envying Paul because of all the people that came to listen to him. He was sharing, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the life of Jesus Christ, and all the things that went on, with David and the bloodline and different things. And the Jews envied Paul because he had influence. People were listening to him and they didn't like that. So this points out to the fact like there are people in the world who like all the attention for themselves. They don't like other people to be given attention. They didn't even apparently care about what Paul was talking, as long as they're taking attention away from them. There are people who do not like attention taken away from them. So I guess there were quite a few narcissists in the Bible before it's now a thing. There's always been a narcissist in the world, and I'll go as far as to say that the enemy of God, Satan, is a narcissist. I would go as far as to say he's like the first narcissist, right? So what happened here was in Acts, I think it's Acts 13. Um, the apostles went to minister to the Jews, but they didn't want any parts of them. They didn't want any parts of the apostles. So what they did was, because they didn't want to listen to them, they turned away the apostles and started speaking to the Gentiles. Well, the Gentiles were the non Jewish people because the Jews didn't want to hear about, the gospel. They didn't want to hear about Jesus Christ. So the apostles started speaking to the Gentiles. Well, Paul was sent to speak to the Gentiles. And And when the Gentiles heard this, they were glad and glorified the word of the Lord, and as many as were ordained to eternal life believed. So again, God already chose who is going to end up in heaven. I know that's a hard saying. It's hard, but we don't know yet who we are. We have to work out what is the saying? Oh my God. I can't think of it right now. We have to work it out through prayer, and I can't think of the phrase, but anyway, so that there are people who are ordained to go to heaven, and that is such a tough thing to say because people don't want to hear that and believe that. But how could God be all knowing if he already doesn't know? You kind of understand what I'm saying. God is all knowing. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's everywhere all at once. So he knows what's what. So we work out our salvation through fear and trembling. And oh, And the word of the Lord was published throughout all the region. But the Jews stirred up the devout and honorable women and the chief men of the city and raised persecution against Paul and Barnabas and expelled them out of their coasts. Well, they didn't like the fact that people were being saved through what Paul was saying, so they kicked them out. And what Paul and Barnabas did was they shook off the dust off their feet against them and came unto Iconium. So like it's almost like oh gosh, it's like a diss. They dissed them. They shook off the dust. And here now in Acts 14, let me see, there's a section here when there was in Lystra, there was a man at Lystra. I'm in Acts 14 now. He was a cripple from his mother's womb, so he never walked or anything. And then he heard Paul speak, Apostle Paul, who was Saul, and Paul, looking at him, perceived that he had faith to be healed. So, when you have faith, you can be healed. You have to like really believe you can be healed, and you will be healed. You shall be healed. So Paul said, "Stand upright on thy feet," and he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what had Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of like Lycaonia, "The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men." So here, even back in the day, people were giving lowercase g credit for things that capital G God did. And so people then were into idolatry clearly back in the day, because even, when Moses went up in the mountain and, he was with God and, they were doing the Ten Commandments and the people were left to their own devices. They got, I guess, antsy because they didn't know what happened to Moses and their mind was all over the place. And they decided to make a golden calf so they can consider that God and worship that. I mean, let's look at that. I mean, doesn't that sound ridiculous? These people experience God in a profound way. God parted the Red Sea so that they could walk through the Red Sea. And apparently, they forgot that God did this. I wonder about so many things. I even wonder about myself. If I had lived during that time period, would I have fallen into forgetfulness after experiencing so many miracles with God? Would I have forgotten that God parted the Red Sea if I was there during that time? I'd like to believe that I would still remember and still honor God and still believe God and know that He is God. And so the people in that community, they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius. So apparently they worship the constellations even back in the day. So there really is nothing new under the sun, right? People worship the stars, the moon, all these different things back then, and they're doing the same thing now. And it kind of boggles my mind. But anyway, so they had a priest called Jupiter who came and was trying to like give Paul and Barnabas accolades as though they are God. And then and Paul said, "No, no, no, don't do that. We're like you." We're flesh and blood like you. We're not God. So imagine if they had taken the glory of God, they probably would not have lived to see the tomorrow, so to speak. Because to take the glory of God is a great offense to God. And these people, when they saw the crippled person walk, they were so astonished that they were crediting them as though they were gods, but G, lowercase g. So he says, sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein. So basically, human nature really hasn't changed much. You still find people today who rather worship anything, created things, rather than worship the true and living God. There's a reason why God is called the living God, because he is alive. He's not a dead God. Unlike a golden calf and unlike all these things that people like to worship, God is a living God. He's everywhere all at once. He doesn't sleep, he doesn't slumber. And there are people who actually say, they don't want to bother God with their situation because God must be busy doing something else. God cares about all our situations, no matter how great or how small it is. If we truly trust God and believe in Him and have faith in Him, He is as close to us as the mention of His name. Anyway, I just came on for a few minutes. I started with Acts 13, and there's a lot going on in the world today. Um, People are not giving God the credit that He deserves. We were actually created to worship God. We were not created to worship man nor created things. Years ago, when I was offered, to join the secret group, and I was offered fame and fortune and all these different things, I came to the conclusion, because I realized the offer didn't come from God, that I'd rather have my soul than to sell my soul for fame and fortune, because that doesn't make sense. We should be concerned about the one who can kill our soul. I really, really get disappointed when I see so many people fall away from God because they're getting notice, because they become a person of influence. They turn away from God and they sell out because they're getting money, they're getting recognition. And I find it very, very sad, because I was listening to a brother on YouTube, I think it was, or Facebook, one of them, and he was talking about how he he hangs out in certain circles and certain things made him uncomfortable, And he said he's seen stuff where people who once were really tight with God are now sold out and they're doing things like um, things that God would disapprove of just so that they could fit in with the world. And, technically, I guess that could happen to anyone. So it's important that we stay humble and we thank God every day for everything He has done for us. That is very, very important because that keeps us in humility before God. Because when we start thinking that the things we accomplish it on our own merits. Now, that's where the problem comes in. It seems like for some people, the more goods, earthly goods they acquire, they seem to move away from God because they are so, they forget that God is their source. They don't remember that it's God who's given them the gift or the power to acquire what they have acquired. So they start thinking like they did this on their own and not giving God the glory and the honor that is rightfully His. And then they end up like getting farther and farther and farther away from the living God. It is my prayer that these people who have moved away from God, that they find God again. And years ago when I was offered, to do this thing, I barely had finances to speak on. So I could have easily given in, but I said, you know what? I'd rather serve God regardless because there's really nothing that should take the place of God because God is most powerful and He can work through humans like He did with Paul and the apostles to cause healing in other people's bodies. He's a God who heals. And because He's spirit, He works through people to accomplish certain things. And of course, because He's God, He could like speak a thing and it will come to pass. You understand what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm going to get off. I just came on to talk tonight. I just came on to talk, basically, and because sometimes I just feel like talking because God's been good to me. And I'm grateful for all the things He brought me through and brought me from. And I'm going to don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and whatever else. And I keep forgetting to put my website on this thing. I'll do it at some point, but I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna say, have a blessed night. Read the Bible every day, and thank God every day when He wakes you up in your right mind. Thank Him every day, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.